Are you ready to make your new obsession of sourdough? Stay with me because we are making sourdough croissants. Because it is at 9 p.m. at night and I want about an 8-hour turnaround time before I'm ready to use my starter, which would be in the morning, I'm gonna do a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 feeding, depending. I'm probably gonna go 1 to 2.5. So I've got 40 grams of starter and I'm gonna feed it 90 grams of flour. You can use all-purpose flour or you can use bread flour. Costco has their own organic all-purpose flour, but it's a higher protein content, so it is also great for using as a bread flour recipe. Using as a bread flour in recipes. 93 grams. And so I'm gonna do a little bit less water. I say take about 10% out. So I'm gonna do about 80 grams of water. And I got 87, which is more than I wanted. So I'm gonna add a little more flour. Then we're gonna mix. I did not use warm water. If you used warm water, that would speed up the rising time a little bit. But again, I'm not in a huge rush because I wanna use it around 6 a.m. tomorrow. Adding a little less water is going to create a nice stiff starter, and in my opinion, stiff starters make the best bread. And I'm going to take my lid and just set it on top. I'm not going to seal because we're letting the starter grow, so we do want a little bit of airflow to come through. I'm going to mark the side of my jar, and I always like to write the time so I kind of know how long it takes for it to double. And then we're gonna let this sit and use it in the morning for our croissants. Good morning, our starter is ready. You can see that it is doubled in size. The top is now no longer domed, so I know it's done growing and it is flattened out, but not started to sink yet. So it is still active and ready to use. If you have any questions about it, you can always try the float test. So, croissant recipe, here it goes. 100 grams of active sourdough starter goes into our mixer. Two. I still have plenty of starter left to continue to make things. You don't need a lot of starter to make bread because you can always grow it with higher feeding ratios. To this, I'm doing 150 grams of milk. Whole milk is what I would recommend. Zero your scale out in between. To this, we're adding 150 grams of water. 43 grams of melted butter, and this is around 3-ish tablespoons. 50 grams of honey. We do not use refined sugar in most of my recipes. I always use a natural sweetener, so honey is my choice. If you have sugar and you want to use that, 50 grams of sugar would be your other option. 12 grams of pink Himalayan salt or mineral salt, some sort of decent salt. Not table salt. Last but not least, 540 grams of flour. We're gonna put this on our stand mixer and mix for about 5 to 7 minutes. All right, our dough is done mixing. It should be all in a ball. And we're just gonna take it and place it in a bowl. We're gonna cover it with a damp kitchen towel or a shower cap. And we let it sit for about 8 hours on the counter. Sit, forget, I love this, we're on the way to the lake. So that is your dough mix. I posted a video yesterday of the folding process. So at that 8-hour mark, you would start the folding. At this point, I would tell you to take out your butter from the fridge. Remember, it's 2 sticks of butter. If you get the Costco butter, it's one of these because this is 2 sticks. And let it sit out for that 8 hours, and it should be nice and soft. Probably around hour 7, I would check it and see if it's pliable, and then I would make that butter block, stick it in the fridge for that hour, so then when you hit that 8-hour mark, it'll be ready to start your folding process. Then at that point, you should be able to let the croissants sit overnight and rise, and then you'll be ready to bake tomorrow morning. Let me put you guys on to my current sourdough obsession, and it is sourdough croissants. So here I am making a butter block, which is needed to go inside the croissant dough. So it is 2 sticks of butter that we have let come to room temperature, so probably like 6 to 8 hours. And then I'm just smoothing it out into a large butter block. To be honest, this butter block was a little too big for what I normally do, but it works. Once we've smoothed the butter block out, you're going to place it in your refrigerator for about 30 minutes to 1 hour. You want it to be nice and solid. From here, we are going to smooth out our croissant dough. So I kind of start by making it into a bit of a rectangle and kind of pushing it down. Then I will take my rolling pin and roll out the dough. We're going to do this 3 times total. So basically what we're doing is rolling the dough out large enough that the butter block fits in it, which is why I said I kind of went a little too big on my butter block because I had to roll the dough out very large, which is fine. But if your butter block's a little bit smaller, you don't have to go as big. Some people get really technical with making sure that the square or rectangle is perfect, and I don't live that way. So as you can see, my butter block's very thin. It did not really come off the paper, so I kind of had to smooth it out. Also, it wasn't cold enough, but it's okay. We makeshift, make it work. So once you add the butter, you're going to fold it into 3. You're going to fold it all the way over into thirds. And then from here, we're going to roll it out again. Nice and thin. This is why you want the butter to be cold, so it doesn't melt and fall out. And then we're going to fold it into thirds again. And then from here, I'm going to place it in some parchment paper, and it's going to go back in the refrigerator for minimum 30 minutes to 45. Then we're going to take it back out, flour our surface, flour the top, and we're going to roll this bad boy out once again. This is what is going to start to create the layers in those croissants. People ask me all the time if I still eat sourdough, and to be honest, like, I still love sourdough bread, but I've eaten so much of it, I crave just different things. And croissants are my current new obsession, and I just cannot get enough of them. So we're rolling it out nice and big again, and then you can even roll it horizontally. You'll see me do it in another part of this, and then we're going to fold it into thirds again. It goes back in the parchment paper, back in the fridge for, again, another 30 minutes to 45. This is the other one. I normally always make 2 at a time because I just love croissants. You can see we're rolling it out again, and then here I move it to where I'm rolling it out horizontally as well. Actually, I think this was me taking it back out of the fridge again. So this is the 3rd time we're rolling it out. People that have those croissant rolling pastry thinner things, I envy, because this rolling pin situation is a process. I believe, if I'm correct, you want it to get out to be like 21 inches, and then I'm going to mark it down in 3-inch increments. And I kind of just use my pizza cutter to like lightly outline where I was going with this. So again, 2.5 to 3-inch increments all the way down. And then I took my pizza cutter and cut it down and then rolled up the croissant. So you're going to do this all the way down. It should make about 10 croissants per batch. This is like the most satisfying part. Cutting all of them down and then rolling. So I am also making chocolate croissants. I'm not super technical with the advancements in croissants quite yet, but we're going to place them on a pan and then we will cover it with stretch wrap and let sit for another 10 to 12 hours. So this was my second one. Again, 2.5 to 3 inch increments. Using a measuring tool definitely gives you a little bit more of a uniformed shape throughout all of your croissants. And here I am just adding some chocolate chips into the croissant. Kind of just do it at the base and then go up about midway through the croissant. And then we just roll them up. Same thing, except these have a delicious sweet treat in them. The chocolate ones are honestly, I eat one in the morning and then one in the evening. They're so addicting. But again, we're just going to place stretch wrap over top of them and let them sit at room temperature. They're going to go through a second rise. So this is post second rise. Then we apply egg wash. You're going to put them in the oven, bake at 400 degrees for 30 minutes, turning halfway through or until that internal temp gets to 200, 210.